The bedroom is quiet. Minho lies awake. Nayla sleeps next to her. She worked a lot today and fell asleep quickly. Minho is watching an old movie without sound. His cup of tea is on the nightstand. There is a sweet nearby. He looks at Nayla. Her breathing is even. He adjusts the blanket near her shoulder. The room is safe and calm. Nayla's body suddenly tenses. Her fingers clutch the sheets. She moans in her sleep. Minho immediately looks at her. She whispers through her sleep. "No," she says. Then her voice becomes clear and frightened. "Chansol, leave me alone." She says the name. Sweat appears on her temples. She is dreaming something bad. She is afraid. Minho gets out of bed. He's no longer watching the movie. His face is different now. It's focused and cold. He goes to the dresser. He takes out black pants and a sweater. He dresses quickly, without a sound. He looks at Nayla. She's still asleep and frowning. He picks up his phone, presses one button. He speaks briefly and clearly. "Get ready. Find everyone named Chansol. Everyone. Expect an address in 10 minutes. He puts the phone down, pulls on his jacket, leaves the bedroom, closes the door quietly. He's already on his way. His quiet evening is over. Nayla wakes to silence. Not from sound, but from its absence. Before, she'd always heard the steady hum of the television or his breathing. Now it's so quiet, her ears are ringing. She opens her eyes. The room is lit only by the dim glow of a nightlight. She rolls over to where Minho should be lying. His place is empty. The blanket is thrown back. The pillow is crumpled. She holds out her hand. The sheet is cold. He got up a long time ago. She props herself up on her elbow. She looks at the nightstand on his side. The cup of tea stands untouched. The sweets, too. The TV is off. He's nowhere in the room. "Minho!" she calls quietly. No one answers. She throws off the blanket and stands up. The floor is cold beneath her bare feet. She walks out of the bedroom into the dark hallway. The large apartment seems empty and too spacious. All the doors are closed. Not a single ray of light. She peers into his office. It's dark. No one is there. She peers into the dressing room. Only rows of suits. She stands in the middle of the living room and listens. No footsteps, no creaking door, no sound of running water. Absolute silence. Her heart starts to beat faster. She returns to the bedroom, turns on the light. The bright light burns her eyes and emphasizes the emptiness. She looks at the cold sheet, at the cup of tea. He made himself some tea, sat down to watch a movie, and then left. Where? She slowly sits down on the edge of the bed. Options swirled in her head. Urgent matter? But then he would have told her. At least left a note. Nothing. Just disappeared. And then another thought comes to mind. Unpleasant and prickly. It doesn't come all at once, but creeps up on her. She remembers his recent late calls, his occasional pensive glance out the window, his curt answers on certain days. The idea is formulated clearly and distinctly. He left for another woman. She gets up and starts pacing the room, barefoot, on the cold floor. The thought seems terrifying, but logical. Why else would a man disappear quietly in the middle of the night? Why doesn't he answer? It all fits. Perhaps this has happened many times before. She was fast asleep. He left. And in the morning, he pretended he simply woke up early. She goes to the window and pulls back the curtain. Their yard below is empty. His car is gone. He really is gone. For a long time. She picks up her phone from the nightstand. Her fingers are shaking. She finds his number, presses the call button. He brings the phone to his ear. He hears long beeps. 1, 2, 5, 10. Nobody picks up. She clutches the phone, hangs up, dials again. Same result. Only beeps. She writes a message. "Where are you?" She sends it. The message is marked as delivered, but there is no response. She waits 5 minutes. She sits on the bed and looks at the phone screen. It is silent. Then she calls again and again. After the fourth call, she's overcome with cold rage. She almost doesn't believe in the urgency anymore. Only infidelity could make a man ignore his wife's calls at night like that. She throws the phone on the bed. It bounces and falls to the floor. She doesn't pick it up. She hugs herself. The apartment is still quiet. The clock on the wall shows 3:30 in the morning. And he's not there, and he's not answering. She looks at his untouched tea. He only managed to brew it, and then he left. To her, this thought now lives inside her, prickly and confident. She sits on the floor, leaning against the bed and waits, but no longer for an answer. She waits for the morning to look into his eyes and understand everything. A black SUV emerges from the underground garage. The tires squeal softly as they turn. Minho doesn't turn up the music. The cabin is quiet, save for the low hum of the engine. It's driving fast. The headlights cut through the empty night streets. He doesn't speed recklessly. It's not recklessness. It's calculation. He knows every turn, every camera on this route. His hands rest confidently on the wheel. His gaze constantly shifts between the road and the navigator. He avoids the main streets, choosing the longer but empty avenues on the outskirts. Speed allows him to think. His thoughts are as clear as commands. The name Chansol repeats in his head like a hot spot. He runs through everyone he knows, business partners, competitors, petty hooligans from the outskirts. Not a single image fits. This can only mean one thing. The threat lies deeper. Or this person is so insignificant that he's never even noticed. The latter is worse. The unknown is always worse. The car flies across the bridge. The dark water below reflects the occasional lights. He increases speed. The dashboard glows a soft green. The speedometer needle creeps smoothly upward. While he's driving, his men are already at work. 3 screens glow in a dimly lit room with rows of monitors. There are no movies or games on them, only data lines, city maps, and open databases. One man types, not looking up from the keyboard. His fingers tap rapidly across the keys. He makes queries, first in his archives. Everyone who has ever been mentioned in conversations, in reports, with the name Chansol, Nisikis or something similar. The computer returns the first 3 names. 2 are minor debtors. 1 is a former driver, fired a year ago for drunkenness. The second man works the phone. He calls. He speaks quietly and quickly. He wakes up his informants in different districts. He asks one question. Who do you know named Chansol? Everyone. Any age. Any occupation. He writes down the answers in a notebook. There are already 5 names. The third one is looking at the city cameras. He's not looking for a specific person. He's looking at the traffic around their house over the past 24 hours. Any suspicious cars, any people who've been nearby more than once. Nothing so far. The data starts pouring in. Names, addresses, occupations, last known locations. Not all of them match, but Minho ordered a search for everyone, so they'll check everyone. 8 minutes after his call, the first person makes a list. It contains 9 names and addresses. He sends it to Minho in a single text message. The message arrives on the phone in the car. A short beep sounds. Nayla can't sit still. She gets up from the floor, puts on a robe, walks out of the bedroom again. She walks along the cold marble floor of the hall. She peers into every room, into the dining room. The large table is empty. Into the guest room. The sofas are neat. The cushions are laid out evenly. She even glances into the kitchen. She turns on the light. Everything is clean. No sign that he's been here. She goes up to the second floor. She checks the library, the gym, even the spacious dressing room with her dresses. Everything is quiet. Everything is empty. He is not there. She stops in front of the large window on the stairs. She looks out into the dark garden. The lanterns illuminate only the paths. No movement. No one. She feels a cold despair spread through her body. It's not just a suspicion of betrayal. It's a feeling of utter loneliness. She's in a huge, beautiful house that feels like a trap. Every room reminds her of him, but he's not there. She goes downstairs, sits on the bottom step, hugging her knees, looking into the darkness of the hall. She called him many times. He doesn't answer. That means he doesn't want to answer. That means he's busy with something else, with someone else. She rests her head on her knees, closes her eyes, but sleep doesn't come. Only the silence of the house presses on her ears. She listens to every creak, every rustle of the old building, but those aren't his footsteps. It's just the house, living its own life without them. The car stops at a low-rise apartment building on the outskirts. The neighborhood is quiet, sleepy. Minho looks at the list. The first address. The first Chanseol. Kim Chanseol, 54. An accountant at a furniture factory. No connections to his world. No notable offenses. Minho gets out of the car. There are 2 people with him. They walk to the entrance. Their footsteps echo dully in the empty courtyard. They go up to the 3rd floor. They don't use the elevator. The door to the apartment they're looking for is ordinary, gray. One of his men takes a step forward, but Minho stops him with a gentle wave of his hand. He approaches the door himself. He knocks, not loudly, but firmly. The night amplifies the sound. A shuffling sound comes from behind the door. The light in the peephole turns on inside. "Who's there?" a man's hoarse, sleepy voice asks. "Open up! Questions about your report," Minho says in a flat, official tone. Silence behind the door. Then the click of the lock. The door opens with a chain. The haggard face of an elderly man wearing glasses is visible through the crack. He squints against the light in the hallway. "What report?" "It's nighttime." Minho gently but firmly presses his shoulder against the door. The chain tightens and snaps with a soft clang. The door swings open. The man, Chansol, in his pajamas, takes a step back. His eyes widen in fear. 2 people Minho follows in and closes the door. Minho enters the small hallway. He doesn't look at the man aggressively. His gaze is calm, even polite. Are you Kim Chan-sol? He asks. Yes. The man presses himself against the wall. I have one question for you. Do you know a woman named Nayla? Minho pronounces his wife's name clearly, watching every micro-reaction on the man's face. The man looks at him in complete bewilderment. His fear is obvious, but there is no guile in it, only confusion. No, I have never heard of it. Who is it? Are you sure? Minho's voice doesn't rise. Think about it. You might have seen her on the street. You might have heard her name. No, I swear. I don't know any Nayla. I'm an accountant. I'm at work and at home all day. The man's voice breaks into a shrill whisper. Minho studies him for a few more seconds. He sees his trembling hands, the genuine confusion in his eyes. This man isn't lying. He's just a coincidence. Get dressed. You need to come with us, Minho says, turning towards the exit. What? No. Why? I told you I don't know anything. I'm innocent! Chan-sol suddenly starts to move, his face contorted with panic. He takes a step towards Minho, but one of the people gently but firmly grabs his elbow. Whether you're guilty or not will become clear. We need you now for identification, Minho says without turning around. His voice is an icy order. What identification? This is a mistake. Call work. Ask anyone. Chan-sol tries to break free, but is easily restrained. Tears of helplessness and horror well up in his eyes. My wife is sleeping. My grandson. You can't just... Minho pauses in the doorway and turns slowly. His gaze falls on a photograph in the hallway. The same man, an elderly woman, and a little boy. A family photo. It won't be long, Minho says dryly. If you're telling the truth, you'll be back in the morning. Get dressed. Be quiet. Don't wake the family. The last sentence sounds less like concern and more like a final warning. Chan-sol freezes. He looks at the closed bedroom door, from which his wife's even breathing can be heard. He understands that screaming or resisting will bring these people here, to his family. His shoulders slump. He nods, submissive and defeated. Quickly, with trembling hands, he pulls on a worn tracksuit and slippers over his pajamas. He doesn't understand what he's being accused of. He doesn't understand who this Nayla is. He only understands that resistance is futile. He is led quietly from the apartment. The door closes. Only a family photograph remains in the dark hallway, illuminated by the streetlight shining through the window. In the car, Chan-sol sits huddled between two silent people. He looks out the window at the passing lights of his hometown. He's guilty of only one thing, his name, but that's enough. The next address leads to a more lively neighborhood, to a building built in the 1980s. On the ground floor is a jewelry store, and on the second floor are apartments. Minho looks at the profile. Park Chan-sol, 29, works as a bartender at a club. The listing notes: involved in minor street fights, hot temper. This time the door opens quickly. A young man in sweatpants with a tattoo on his neck peers out. He doesn't look sleepy. Behind him, a game on a console can be heard. What do you want? His voice is rough, but wariness flashed in his eyes when he saw three men in dark clothes. Park Chan-sol? Minho asks in the same even tone. Me? And who are you? The guy rests his hand on the doorframe, blocking the entrance. We have questions about a woman. Neil, the guy frowns, trying to remember. His face doesn't express fear, but rather irritation. I don't know any Neil. I have my own things to do. Go on your way. He tries to close the door. The hand of one of Minho's men, lightning fast, falls on the door, not letting it move even in millimeter. The guy resists, the muscles in his arm tensing. I said I don't know. He raises his voice. Minho takes a step forward. He doesn't threaten, doesn't yell. He just looks. His gaze slowly slides over the boy's face, then drops to his tattoo, to the chain around his neck, and back to his eyes. Minho's gaze is like a blade. He doesn't express anger, only absolute, utter confidence in his control of the situation. Are you sure? Minho asks quietly. Think very carefully. Neil's name. A black woman. Maybe you saw her on the street. Maybe in a car. Maybe someone talked about her. Under that gaze, the boy's bravado begins to melt. He doesn't see thugs, but professionals. He looks away. I swear, his voice breaks. I work nights at Crystal. There are no such people there, and I haven't heard of any. Honestly, Minho watches him for another moment. This Chan-sol's aggression is superficial, born of fear. There's no lie in his confusion. Get dressed. You're coming with us, Minho says, turning away. Where? It's not my fault. Panic breaks into the boy's voice again, but this time it's real. One of Minho's men gently but firmly places his arm behind his back and quietly speaks something in his ear. The boy falls silent, his eyes darting around the empty hallway. He realizes there's no point in screaming. He puts on his sneakers and a light jacket and is let out. The game on the PlayStation continues behind the door. His friend through the wall still hasn't heard anything. Nayla is still sitting on the steps. The chill from the marble penetrates her thin robe. She rises and wanders the house like a ghost. Her thoughts, once clear and confident, now spiral. She remembers yesterday. Minho met her at the door, helped her take off her coat, asked how she was doing. Everything as usual. But was there weariness in his eyes? Yes, there was. He's always tired. It doesn't mean anything. She enters his office, turns on the light. The desk is perfectly clean. No papers, no laptop. He always puts everything away in the safe. She sits in his chair. It smells of his cologne and leather. She looks at the empty surface of the desk. She remembers how a week ago he was late for a meeting. He arrived in the early morning, said he fell asleep in the office. She believed him. But what if she didn't? She opens the top drawer of his desk. There are only pens, chargers, a few business cards, nothing personal, never anything personal. She always considered this his characteristic, his reserve. And now it seems like walls behind which she can hide anything. She thinks about his phone. He never leaves it unattended, never leaves it unlocked. Before, this seemed like a business-like habit. Now it looks like secrecy. She remembers his gifts. Expensive, beautiful, but always impersonal. Jewelry, most likely chosen by his assistant. Luxurious vacations planned by his secretary. Where is he in all this? Where are the little silly things, the random flowers, the funny cards? It never happened. She justified it with his character, his past. He doesn't know how to show affection without reason. Or maybe he doesn't want it. Maybe all his attention, all his energy, goes somewhere else, to someone who doesn't demand elaborate gifts, but is content with his presence at night. She presses her fingers to her temples. These thoughts are poisonous. Every detail, every habit is now turned upside down and revealed in a new, terrible light. Her confidence in him, in their life, is cracking. And through this crack, a cold, sticky doubt creeps in. She turns off the light in the office and leaves. The house once again absorbs her into its silence. Cars pull up to a nondescript warehouse on the industrial outskirts. The building is old, made of red brick. The ground floor windows are blocked with concrete blocks. It's cold inside and smells of dust, oil, and damp. Minho descends the iron stairs into the basement. The space is lit by a few dim lamps. In the center, on the concrete floor, sit 7 men. They are all of varying ages and appearances. An elderly accountant in tracksuit, a young bartender, several workers, a convenience store clerk, a student, and a junior office clerk. Their hands are bound behind their backs with soft plastic zip ties. Their faces are a mixture of fear, anger, and utter confusion. Are 3 people standing nearby Minho. They are silent and attentive. Minho slowly circles the group, his footsteps echoing loudly in the basement. He looks at each of them, searches their eyes, searches for even a drop of guilt, recognition, hidden mockery. He sees only confusion. The accountant is crying quietly, soundlessly. The bartender is trying to look defiant, but his lower lip is trembling. The others look at the floor or at Minho with silent questions. Minho stops in front of them. "Your name is Chansol," he says simply, without preamble. "One of you knows my wife, Nayla. Someone scared her. If you tell me who it is, you'll leave here now. If you keep quiet, we'll find you ourselves. It'll take longer. It'll only make things worse for you." Silence reigns in the basement, broken only by the accountant's ragged breathing. "I don't know any Nayla!" the clerk suddenly shouts, his voice ringing with hysteria. "Check my calls, my messages. I'm married. I have 2 children. I work for an insurance company. My name is Chansol too, but I'm a taxi driver," says another. "I drive all day. I could drive anyone. I don't remember everyone." The noise of voices increases. They all start talking at once, making excuses, swearing. Minho doesn't react. He listens to the noise like a doctor listens to the roar of his lungs. He waits for a false note to emerge beneath the panic, but all the voices sound sincere in their despair. All the stories agree on one thing. They don't know Nayla. He steps aside, to his man. "Have you checked everyone?" he asks quietly. "Yes, boss. We searched them, checked their phones. Not a single photo, not a single mention. No connections to our circle. All clear." Minho nods. He looks at these frightened, innocent people. There is no regret in his mind. There is only the cold fact. The threat is not among them. But the process has begun. He turned to them. "You will stay here until the morning. Then we will sort it out. Sit quietly." His voice leaves no room for discussion. He climbs the stairs, leaving them in the cold, dim light of the basement. His mind is already racing. If not them, then who? He needs to dig deeper. Perhaps it wasn't a person, but a place, or a company, or something else connected to that name. But that requires light. It requires morning. And until morning, these people are his guests. The fear they feel now is nothing compared to the fear he saw on his wife's face. For him, that's justification enough. Minho stands against the wall in the corner of the basement. His men await instructions. He looks at the bound men. They have fallen silent, realizing their shouts are useless. Only the accountant is sobbing. burying his face in his knees. "Leave them here until morning," Minho says quietly, addressing the senior of his men. "Interview each of them separately again, calmly. No pressure. No, we need to figure out if they've heard this name, Niels, from anyone else. Maybe someone hired them. Maybe they passed something on. Check all the connections for the last month." The man nods. "Understood. And if they don't find anything, then let them go in the morning," Minho replies. There's no regret or doubt in his voice. There's only the statement of the plan. But for now, they're here. Let them think. Sometimes the right word comes after hours in the dark. One of his men brings him a chair. Minho sits down. He doesn't leave. He stays here, in the basement, to observe. He watches as his men begin their methodical work. They take the bartender to the next, equally empty room. They speak to him calmly. They ask the same questions from different angles. Minho doesn't intervene. He simply waits. He glances at his watch. The night is slowly drawing to a close. He doesn't feel tired. A cold, focused intensity burns within him. Every minute that passes without results is a minute that the real threat, if there is one, remains at large. But there's no need to rush. He must be meticulous. He catches the student's gaze. The student looks at him with a silent question, full of bewilderment and resentment. Minho holds his gaze for a few seconds, then looks away. He has nothing to say to this boy. Explanations are unnecessary. The world this student lives in and Minho's are different universes. And now they collide. In Neela's bedroom, the darkness gradually recedes. First, it becomes less dense, then takes on a grayish tint. A streak of light appears at the junction between the curtains. It's thin, like a blade. Then it widens. Neela sits in the chair by the window, where she moved an hour ago. She hasn't slept all night. Her body is stiff from tension and the awkward position. She watches the light come in. The first rays, weak and timid, penetrate the crack. They fall on the carpet, revealing a pattern in the gloom. Then the light reaches the edge of the bed. It settles on the crumpled sheet on his side. Now the emptiness is perfectly clear, cold, undeniable. She looks at this light without hope. Usually, dawn is something beautiful, the promise of a new day. Now it's simply a statement of fact. The night has passed, and he was gone. The light intensifies. The shadows in the room shift, receding into the corners. The room, so familiar and cozy at night by the lamplight, now looks alien and empty in the daylight. She sees dust motes dancing in the beam. She sees her cup on the nightstand. His untouched cup. There's no longer any rage in her head. It burned out overnight, leaving behind a heavy, leaden fatigue and bitterness. She's just waiting for him to appear, to look into his eyes, to see justification or guilt in them, to end it all, or she doesn't even know what the "or" will be. Her thoughts are viscous and slow. She gets up from the chair. She goes to the window. She opens the curtains. The bright morning light hits her eyes, forcing her to squint. Everything in the yard is clearly visible, and the empty space where his car should be. She's about to turn away when a distant but familiar sound reaches her. The low, steady hum of a powerful engine. It grows louder. Her heart gives one sharp, painful beat. She freezes, her fingers gripping the windowsill. A black SUV appears around the corner and smoothly pulls into the yard. It pulls up to the porch and stops. The engine stalls. There's silence. For a few seconds, nothing happens. Minho steps out. He looks ordinary. He's wearing the same dark jacket. His face is focused, a slight shadow of fatigue under his eyes. He doesn't look guilty or happy. He looks like a man who just got back from the night shift. He slowly closes the car door, adjusts the cuff of his jacket, takes a step toward the house. And at that moment, everything in Neil exploded. The entire long night of fear, anger, and humiliating suspicions rose like a lump in her throat. She jumped away from the window. Her fatigue vanished, replaced by a new, fresh wave of rage. She ran out of the bedroom and flew down the stairs, her feet barely feeling the steps. She hears the front door lock click upstairs. He's inside. She stops in the middle of the hall, breathing heavily. He enters the entryway, taking off his shoes. He hasn't seen her yet. "Where have you been?" Her voice sounds hoarse and loud in the silence of the hall. Minho looks up. He sees her. He sees her disheveled hair, her robe, the dark circles under her eyes, her clenched fists. Something flashes in his eyes for a split second. Not guilt, but rather surprise. He seems not to have expected such a reception. He just spent the night eliminating a threat to her, and here she stands before him like an enraged fury. The bewilderment on his face becomes the last straw. Minho enters the hallway. His movements are slow, precise. He places his keys on the shelf. He bends down to take off his shoes. Everything is as usual, ritualistic. His body aches with fatigue, but his mind is as focused as ever. The night had been long but productive. The threat, it seems, has been neutralized. Now he can exhale, change, check on her. He even wonders if he woke her by leaving. Probably not. She was fast asleep. He hears quick footsteps. He raises his head. Nayla stands in the doorway, leading from the hall. Her hair is tousled. Her eyes are wide open, with dark circles under them. Her robe is rumpled. She is breathing quickly and shallowly, as if she had just run. He straightens up. His face remains calm, but something inside is wary. This isn't the tired wife he left behind. This is something else. "Where have you been?" Her voice cuts through the silence. It's hoarse, sleepless, and so full of anger that Minho loses himself for a second. He doesn't have time to answer. He doesn't even have time to understand where so much rage is coming from. Nayla takes off. She doesn't walk. She practically runs across the hall toward him. Her eyes scan the shelf by the mirror. The first thing she finds is a heavy crystal ashtray, a souvenir they never used. She grabs it. "I asked you a question," she shouts, and he throws it. The ashtray flies at him awkwardly, but with force. He instinctively ducks. The crystal flies past his shoulder and shatters against the wall with a dull clang, shattering into shards. But she's already reaching for the next item, an umbrella vase. Plastic, lightweight. She tosses that too. "You're silent?" Her voice breaks. "Then I understand everything." The vase hits him in the chest, causing no pain, but completely erasing the last vestiges of calm from his face. A cold, fleeting bewilderment appears in his eyes, then immediately gives way to action. She's already close. Her hand raised to strike, not to throw, but to hit him in the face. Tears of rage and genuine, unadulterated pain fill her eyes. His hand shoots up faster than hers, not to counter, to block. Her wrist finds its way into his open palm. He doesn't grab, doesn't tug. He simply stops. His fingers close around her hand, firmly but not cruelly. He holds her arm in the air, preventing her from completing the blow. She tries to break free. She strains with all her strength, but his grip is like a steel hoop, motionless, inexorable. She can't move her hand an inch. She twitches, trying to hit him with her other hand, but he catches her too, gently pressing both her hands to her chest. He does it not aggressively, but as a restraining gesture. They stand frozen in the center of the hall. She breathes quickly, raggedly, looking up at him with eyes filled with hatred. He looks at her, and his gaze no longer reflects anger, but complete, utter incomprehension. His brows are slightly furrowed. There's no trace of the guilt she expected to see on his face. There's only weariness, bewilderment, and a question. "Nayla," he says quietly, almost calmly. His voice sounds hoarse from the night. "What's wrong? What happened?" "Don't pretend!" she cries out, but without the same force. Her ardor is fading from his strange reaction. "You know what?" "All I know is, I had a long night," he replies, still holding her hands. "And you look like you haven't slept at all. And you're throwing things. Explain. Explain first, and then hit me if you want." There's no mockery in his tone. There's directness. That same directness that sometimes infuriates her and sometimes makes her listen. He doesn't make excuses. He demands an explanation. And there's something in that makes her anger crack. She sees his face, sees genuine bewilderment, sees the weariness in the corners of his eyes, and she begins to understand that the scene she'd painted in her head, him laughing with another woman, doesn't match the man in front of her. This man had returned from somewhere else, from business. But then why had he remained silent? He doesn't let go of her hand, but he doesn't press harder either. He simply holds it, creating a barrier between her fury and himself. His gaze studies her face as if seeing her for the first time. "You're asking where I was?" he asks, and his voice sounds not like an excuse, but pure curiosity. "I was working. And why aren't you sleeping? Why in this state?" He looks at the broken ashtray, at the vase lying on the floor. He looks at her face, distorted with anger. He doesn't seem to connect these two facts, his absence and her reaction. For him, they are parallel things. His job is to work. Her job is to sleep peacefully in their safe home. Her sleepless night and throwing objects doesn't fit into this logic. "You're shaking all over," he notes, and something akin to concern slips into his tone. Not guilt towards his wife, but the worry of an owner about a valuable thing that has suddenly broken down. His tone, full of incomprehension, finishes her off. She stops struggling. Her strength is fading. "What work?" she breathes, and her voice is broken and quiet now. "What kind of work is in the middle of the night, Minho? Without a call? Without a message? You just disappeared. I woke up alone, in an empty house. I called you 10 times. You didn't pick up." She speaks, and the words pour out in a stream, hot and bitter. I spent the whole night wondering where you were. And you know what I came to? That you left for someone else. That you have a mistress. That you visited her while I slept. Maybe often. You are always so secretive. Your phone is always locked. You never tell me anything. You give me expensive gifts that I'm sure your assistant chooses. You are so flawless and distant. And this night confirmed everything. You just left, silently, and didn't can't answer. What else was I supposed to think? She spills it all her nightmares, all the suspicions that have been building for months perhaps, and exploded this night. She expects him to frown, to make excuses, to get angry. She's ready for a scene. Minho listens. At first, his face remains serious. He watches her lips, hanging on every word. Then, when she mentions her mistress, his eyebrows slowly rise, not in anger, in amazement. When she finishes, a strange change occurs in his eyes. The tension that had been in them since his return suddenly dissipates. The corners of his lips twitch, and he laughs. It's not a loud, triumphant laugh. It's a short, low, hoarse sound, emanating from the very depths of the chest, the sound of utter exhaustion and a ridiculous, absurd relief. Nayla freezes, stunned. She just poured her heart out to him, and he's laughing? You're laughing? Her whisper is filled with a new, chilling shock. Minho catches himself immediately. He lets go of one of her hands to run his palm down his face, brushing away traces of laughter and weariness. Sorry, he says, but his voice still trembles with the echo of that laugh. Sorry, just a lover. He shakes his head, looking at her with an expression that now holds a wild, genuine relief. I spent the night in a dank basement, interrogating random people because you said someone's name in your sleep, because you looked like you were in danger. I was looking for whoever scared you, and you thought I was with another woman. He shakes his head again, and there's something warm, almost tender, in his gaze that she hasn't seen in a long time. It's the look of a man who understands that the real danger wasn't outside, but here, in his home, and it was of a different kind entirely. Nayla, he says quietly, no longer laughing, I was willing to do anything for your safety, and you were willing to smash my head with a vase out of jealousy. This isn't what I expected when I came home. He still holds one of her hands, but now his grip is more connecting than restraining. With his other hand, he gently brushes a strand of hair from her face. His movement is slow, almost hesitant, as if he's afraid of startling her. Let's sit down, he says. His voice is soft now, but there's a hint of weariness in it. I'll explain everything. Just sit down, okay? You're shaking. He doesn't pull her. He simply stands and waits, looking into her eyes. His own tension is slowly fading, revealing a simple, intense weariness. He looks like a man who has walked a long, difficult path, only to discover in the end that he's been going the wrong way. Please, Nayla, he adds quietly, and the please sounds less like a request from a subordinate than from an equal, almost like a plea. Her resistance melts. The rage that had burned within her all night and morning has collided with something so unexpected that it can no longer sustain itself. She allows him to gently lead her to the living room sofa, 2 steps from the scene of their confrontation. He goes first, clearing a path, pushing tiny shards of crystal away from the ashtray with his foot. They sit down. The sofa is deep and soft. He sits down next to her, but not close, leaving space. He leans forward, elbows on his knees, and looks at his hands. Then he begins to speak. Without preamble, you fell asleep almost immediately. I watched a movie, made myself some tea, put out some dessert. Everything was calm. He speaks monotonously, as if writing a report. He looks not at her, but into the space in front of him, reconstructing the scene. Then you started to toss and turn, quietly at first, then more strongly. I thought it was just a dream, but you didn't calm down. He pauses, remembering. His face becomes focused. Then you said in your sleep, Chansol, leave me alone. He finally turns his head and looks at her. His eyes are clear and serious now. You said that name, and your voice was not yours, frightened, childish, like you were being threatened. He continues, his words clearer now. He describes not feelings, but facts he has observed. You were all tense. Your fingers were gripping the sheets so tightly that your knuckles were white. I saw it, and sweat, on your temples, on your neck. You were sweating from fear, in your sleep. He says this with such certainty, as if he can see it again in front of him. There is no reproach in his tone, no accusation. There is only a statement of what has become an alarm signal for him. You begged. You said please. I have never heard you beg like that. Not even in your sleep. He leans back on the couch, and his gaze is lost somewhere on the ceiling. For me, it wasn't just a bad dream, Nayla. For me, it was a direct threat. Someone named Chansol scared you so much that the fear penetrated here, in our bedroom. You were safe physically, but not in your head. And if this person exists, they were able to do this. That means they are dangerous. He looks at her again. I couldn't just lie down and sleep next to you, knowing you were dreaming like this. knowing that someone made you afraid. I needed to find this person, neutralize the threat. That's the only thing I could think of. He falls silent, giving her time to digest his words. The room is quiet. The first sounds of day drift in from the street. But here, on the couch, time seems to stand still. He'd just described her own dream as the factor that set the entire machinery of his world in motion. He saw the real danger in her nightmare and reacted as he knew how, quickly, harshly, and completely. She looks at his profile. She sees weariness in every feature. She sees absolute seriousness. He's not joking. He really did spend the night chasing the ghost from her dream. And for him, it was the most logical and correct reaction in the world. He continues speaking, and there is no doubt in his voice, only clear, precise logic, which is as natural to him as breathing. When there is a threat, it is eliminated immediately. You can't wait for it to become real. You set a name. That means the threat has a name. That means it can be found. He pauses briefly, collecting his thoughts. I called people, gave them a name, ordered them to find everyone connected to him. Within 10 minutes, I had addresses. Then I went to them. He describes it as simply as if he were describing a trip to the store. No drama, no excuses. I checked everyone, asked if they knew you, watched their reactions. No one knew, but that meant nothing. The threat could have been hidden or indirect. He looks at his hands, clenching and unclenching them, as if checking their readiness. I gathered everyone I found in one place, to keep them in sight, to ask questions, to make sure none of them could even think of harming you. He looks up at her. There's that same unshakable confidence in them that once seemed like strength to her, but now seems terrifying. It was necessary. For your safety, if there's even 1 chance in 100 that you're in danger, that chance must be reduced to 0. Always. That's not up for discussion. At first, his words don't fully sink in. She hears them, but their meaning is too monstrous to process right away. Everyone associated with this name, gathered in one place. To be sure, she sits motionless, looking at him, and slowly, piece by piece, a picture emerges. Not the picture of his betrayal that she had been imagining all night. A different one, far more terrifying in its twisted logic. He was not with another woman. He was hunting. Because of her. Because of her dream. Her mouth opens, but no sound comes out. She tries to imagine it. Night, his men rummaging through databases, rousing informants from their beds, cars racing through the sleeping city, him entering the apartments of complete strangers, yanking them out of bed, out of life, simply because they were called by a certain name, a name she dreamed of. You! Her voice breaks. She starts over, slowly, enunciating each word. You found people, strangers. And took them? Because of my dream? He nods, as if it's a perfectly normal question. Yes, for a while. To test. How many? She whispers. He thinks for a second, remembering. 7 people. Different. No connections to each other. No connections to us. Not a single one of them knew you. He says this as a summary of the report, a statement of fact. And this finally brings the full weight of what happened down on her. 7 people. 7 lives. 7 families, perhaps. Awakened in the middle of the night. Terrified. Torn from their homes by strangers. Because of what? Because of a nightmare. Because of a random name her subconscious pulled from the depths of her memory. Or even created out of nothing. Her breath catches. She feels a lump rise in her throat. These aren't tears of hurt or jealousy. This is horror, pure icy horror, that she's unwittingly caused this. You placed them where? Her voice trembles. Somewhere safe, until the morning, so that everything could be checked calmly, he answers. And there's a hint of bewilderment in his tone. He doesn't understand why she's so worried about this. For him, this is standard procedure, threat prevention. Are they there now? She can barely speak anymore. Yes, he nods. People are with them. They'll be released in the morning. If everything is clear, he says, if everything is clear, as if this is some kind of technical inspection of goods. Not people, not living, breathing people, who were simply careless enough to be born with a certain name. She leans back against the couch, closing her eyes. Faces float before her eyelids. Fictional, yet so real in that moment. An older man pulled out of bed. A young man torn from a video game. Someone else. They were innocent. They knew nothing. They were simply asleep in their beds, just like her. And then he came. And all this, because she hadn't slept well. She opens her eyes and looks at him, at his tired, serious face, at the man who loves her the way he knows how. Completely, totally, obliterating any possible shadow of danger in her path. Even if that shadow is merely a product of her own imagination, he's ready to crush the real world for the ghost of her dream. The shock of this realization is so great that for a moment it drowns out all other feelings. Jealousy, anger, resentment, all of it seems trivial, childish whims compared to the monstrous defense mechanism she's accidentally activated. She sits and feels her understanding of him, of their life, of the boundaries of what's permissible, crumble and reform into some terrifying, distorted form. He didn't cheat on her. He was faithful to her, too faithful, to the point of madness. She leans forward, her elbows resting on her knees. She looks him straight in the eyes, trying to break through his wall of certainty. Minho, listen to me. Those people, they're innocent. They didn't do anything. Do you understand? It was just a dream, a bad dream. That person, Chensol, most likely doesn't exist. It's a fantasy. My imagination. She speaks slowly, clearly, as if explaining something very complex to a child. You acted because you thought you were protecting me, but you punished the wrong people. You hurt innocent people because of my dream. This is crazy. This is wrong. She searches his eyes for understanding. A shadow of doubt. All she sees is an attentive, analytical gaze. He listens, but doesn't agree. They're scared, she continues, her voice filled with despair. They don't understand what's happening. They have families, jobs, and you kidnapped them. You used force against people who don't even know what they're accused of. That's not defense, that's outrage. Minho listens to her. He doesn't interrupt. When she finishes, he exhales slowly. Nayla, he says her name quietly. You are everything to me. You are the only thing that has real meaning. Everything else is background. He pauses, choosing his words. If there is even a ghost of a chance that you are being threatened, that chance becomes 100% real to me. I can't ignore it. I can't risk it. Ever. His voice doesn't rise. He speaks calmly, explaining what he considers an obvious truth. Right or wrong, those are questions for a world where threats are theoretical. In my world, a threat either exists or it doesn't. If it does, it is eliminated, without hesitation. Yes, these people could be innocent, but until I checked, I couldn't know that. And checking requires control, requires that they be where I can influence them. He looks at her, and there is no cruelty in his gaze. There is absolute terrifying clarity. Their fear, their discomfort, even their innocence. None of it matters compared to the mere possibility that one of them could hurt you. Nothing matters, ever. He looks away. Looks at his hands. You say arbitrariness. Perhaps, for them. For me, this is order. The only possible order in which you are safe, even from nightmares. He looks at her again. If it means temporarily frightening 10 innocents to protect you, I will do it. 100 if necessary. The limits of what is permissible for me are determined only by your safety. There are no other limits. He says this not as a threat, but as a statement of fact, like a physical law. For him, it's so natural and indisputable that it doesn't even require emotion. His love isn't flowers and tenderness. It's a system of total protection, with zero tolerance for risk. And within this logic, his actions are impeccable. Nayla listens, and a cold wave of understanding washes over her. He wasn't simply mistaken. He acted in accordance with his nature, with his warped but absolute morality. And in this morality, she is the absolute center, for the sake of which everything is permitted. This realization brings no relief. It brings a new, deeper form of horror. He is ready to destroy anything for her, and he has just proven it. Nayla doesn't look away. His logic, cold and alien, hangs in the air between them. She feels something rising inside her. Not anger, but something hard and unshakable. She can't accept this. She can't let it go unanswered. No, she says quietly, but the word feels like a blow. It's wrong, Minho, and you know it. He frowns, ready to argue, but she stops him. Your love doesn't give you the right to do evil. You scared. You kidnapped innocent people. You became for them the very nightmare you supposedly protected me from. Is that what you wanted? I wanted to keep you safe, he repeats, but for the first time, a subtle crack appears in his voice. Not doubt in his actions, but incomprehension of her reaction. And you did, from a non-existent threat, but the real harm you caused them. Families who are awake right now, not knowing where their husband, son, father is, you transferred my fear to them. And now it's real. It's sitting in your basement. You created it yourself. She sees his fingers clench slightly. He listens. You want to be my protector? Then protect me from this too. The knowledge that innocent people suffered because of me. I can't live with it. I can't breathe, knowing that there are people out there in the dark who are afraid. And it's my fault, our fault. She takes a deep breath. You say there are no limits for my safety, but where are the limits for my conscience? You crossed them, and it hurts me. Right now. You're hurting me. Not a dream, but your actions. He freezes. This reasoning seems to reach him. He looks at her face and sees not hysteria, but a deep, calm conviction and suffering. He's used to reading threats in the actions of his enemies. He doesn't see a threat in her words, but he sees her pain. And this is a new, incomprehensible challenge for him. What are you suggesting? He asks finally, his voice lacking its former iron confidence. Let them go. Now. All of them. Apologize in person. Make sure they're okay. Make amends if you can. It's the only way to make things right. But the test isn't over, he counters automatically. The test is over! Her voice grows stronger. You said it yourself. They don't know me. They pose no threat. You were proactive. You forestalled it. Now stop. Show mercy. Show humanity. For me. If I truly mean everything to you, then do this. Not as a boss, as a person. As my husband. She reaches out and carefully places her palm over his clenched fist. His hand is cold. Please, Minho. He looks at her hand on his. He stares for a long moment. Then he looks up at her. A struggle rages in his eyes. An instinct, honed to the point of automatism, demands he keep all potential threats under control until they are completely clear. But her request, her pain, that's a different reality. A reality that's more important to him than any hypothetical danger. He nods slowly, a single movement of his chin. Okay. He takes out his phone. He dials a number. He speaks, not taking his eyes off her. Release everyone. Now. Take each one home. Give each one my apologies personally, and compensation for the inconvenience. The standard one. He listens to the short answer, then hangs up. Done. He places the phone on the table. The room is silent again, but it's different now. The tension slowly fades, dissolving into the gray morning light. Nayla doesn't remove her hand. She feels his fist gradually unclench beneath her palm. Thank you, she whispers. He doesn't answer. He looks out the window, where the night has finally given way to dawn. His face looks empty, not from exhaustion, but from the fact that for the first time, he's acted against his instincts. For her, she stands, goes to the window, and throws the curtains wide open. Light floods the room. He winces. She turns to him. I'll make coffee. Real coffee. And breakfast. He nods without looking at her. She goes into the kitchen. The sounds of the stove clicking, running water, the clatter of dishes fill the house with a sense of normal, peaceful life for the first time in hours. When she returns with a tray, he's still sitting on the sofa, staring into space. She places the tray on the table and pours coffee into 2 cups. She sits down next to him. Silently, she hands him his cup. He takes it and mechanically raises it to his lips. They drink coffee. They don't talk. Outside, they can hear the first morning car driving by, someone slamming a door in the house next door. The world is waking up. She looks at him and realizes something has broken, but something has also appeared. He saw the line she drew, and loving her, he did not cross it. She saw the true nature of his world, and loving him, she did not run away in horror. He puts down his empty cup. I need to take a shower, he says hoarsely. Go. He gets up and goes upstairs. She hears the water turn on. She gathers the ashtray fragments and picks up the vase. She clears away the traces of the night's battle. Then she returns to the sofa, curls up, and looks out the window, where the bright morning has finally come into its own. The night is over. The 7 strangers must already be on their way home. They will never understand what happened, and now she understands too much. He returns, wearing fresh sweats and a t-shirt, his hair wet. He looks younger and more vulnerable. He sits down next to her, without touching. They gaze silently out the window at the new day that has arrived against all odds. Together, daylight dawns slowly, as if cautiously. The sunlight no longer stings the eyes, but softly floods the living room, picking out dust on the parquet floor and reflections on the glass tabletop from the gloom. They sit in silence. Minho leans his head against the back of the sofa, his eyes closed, but the slight tension in his jaw reveals he's not sleeping. Nayla has wrapped herself in the blanket she grabbed from the chair and is looking at her feet. Her thoughts are swirling in a vicious circle, but quieter now, muted by fatigue and the strange, fragile stillness. His phone is the first to break the silence. A single, muffled vibration. Minho opens his eyes, slowly picks up the phone, and reads the message. His face is expressionless. Everyone's been released. Delivered home, he says evenly, reporting. Compensation has been paid. There were no objections. He sets the phone on the table, and this movement seems to mark the final point in the night's case. Case closed. Nayla nods without looking at him. Okay, the word doesn't mean anything, but it had to be said. She stands up, the blanket falling from her shoulders. I'm going to go take a shower, she says, and her own voice sounds strange, hoarse from screaming and long silence. Yes, he says, just yes. The water is hot, almost scalding. She stands under the powerful streams, closing her eyes, trying to wash away the sticky residue of a sleepless night, the fear, the anger, and the icy horror that has replaced them. Thoughts creep into her head again. 7 people. Compensation. What did he give them? Money? Guarantees? Do their apologies and money erase the fear? No. Nothing will erase the memory of that night's visit, the feeling of helplessness. She feels sick. She caused this, even unwittingly, indirectly, but a cause. She emerges from the shower, wrapped in a large towel. The bedroom is quiet. She hesitates to leave right away. She dresses slowly, in simple, soft pants and a loose sweater. When she steps into the living room, Minho is standing by the large window, his back to the room. He is motionless, like a statue. His posture suggests not rest, but composure, as if he were still on duty. He hears her footsteps and turns around. His face is pale, his eyes seeming even darker from the shadows beneath them. "You should eat," he says. It's not a suggestion. It's a statement of a physiological need that he, as a responsible subject, is obliged to take into account. "I'm not hungry," she answers honestly. "It doesn't matter. I need to eat." He goes into the kitchen, and she hears the refrigerator open, the clink of dishes. She doesn't follow him. She sits down at the dining room table. A few minutes later, he brings 2 dishes, simple scrambled eggs on toasted bread and sliced apples. Everything looks neat, without any frills. He places the plate in front of her, his own across from hers. He sits down. They eat in silence. The food is tasteless, but she swallows mechanically, feeling the weakness recede a little. "What happened next?" she asks suddenly, without looking up from her plate. He looks at her. "Next? After you gathered them in the basement. What did you do?" He pushes his plate away and folds his hands on the table. "Waited. Ordered my men to question each of them again, more thoroughly. Watched them. Waited for someone to waver, to give themselves away. No one wavered." He speaks without emotion, but there is a slight, almost professional disappointment in his words, like a hunter who has tracked an animal but found no tracks. "Did you wait until morning?" "Yes. You had to give it time. Fear and darkness are good allies. They make you tell the truth. But this time, the truth was, they knew nothing. And you were there all this time? With them?" "Yes. I should have seen." She imagines him, sitting on a chair in the corner of the cold basement, watching the bound people, peering into their faces in the semi-darkness. His patient, icy attention. What picture had he hoped to see? Signs of deception? Mockery? A threat? He saw only the fear of the innocent, and that wasn't enough to stop him immediately. She was needed here, with her pain and demand. "Thank you," she says again, and the word now has a different connotation. Not gratitude for obedience, but acknowledgement of something difficult. Perhaps acknowledgement of his effort, an effort to understand her request, to go against his nature. He nods, accepting the gratitude as fact. After breakfast, he takes the plates to the kitchen. The dishwasher is running. She remains seated at the table. Her body aches, demands sleep, but her mind, overloaded with adrenaline, is still on edge. He returns. "You need to rest," he says. "Go lie down." "And you?" "I need to make a few calls, handle the aftermath." He says aftermath, as if it were something businesslike, technical, not about human lives. She understands that arguing is useless. His world demands an accounting. His system demands a restoration of balance, and part of that balance is her rest. She submits, because her strength is truly running out. In the bedroom, she doesn't lie down in their shared bed. She lies down on the wide sofa by the window, throwing the same blanket over herself. She falls asleep almost immediately, sinking into a black, dreamless void. She is awakened by voices, low, muffled. She opens her eyes. Outside it is daylight, bright and serene. She lies still, listening. Minho is talking in his office. The door is slightly open. His voice is even, businesslike. "Yes, standard inconvenience bonus. Make sure there are no questions. No, there will be no repeat contact. Close the topic. Pause. No action. Add everyone on the list to the white zone. Do not disturb again. Yes." Another pause. Longer. "Because I said so." "That's it." She hears him hang up. Then silence. He's settling the matter. White zone. Do not disturb. These people are now marked as safe in his system. They've received their label and perhaps monetary compensation for the stolen night of peace and security. The price has been settled. She stands up, her head heavy but clear. She approaches the office door. He's sitting at his desk, staring at his laptop screen. His face wears its usual concentration. The incident of the night has already been processed, classified, and filed away, at least on the surface. Minho, he looks up, sees her, closes the laptop. Did you sleep? A little. I want to ask. He waits. What now? She asks, simple and direct. He looks at her, and for a second, that same bewilderment that started it all flickers in his eyes. He doesn't understand the question. What now what? He asks again. Between us. After all this. He leans back in his chair, considers. For him, this seems to be not an emotional question, but a strategic one. Everything is as it was. He says finally. You are safe. The threat is neutralized. The situation is under control. She shakes her head. No, not everything is as it was. I know now. I saw how far you are willing to go. You saw where I draw the line. We can't pretend it didn't happen. He is silent, studying her. Then he nods, acknowledging her rightness. Yes, you are right. But that doesn't change anything important. You are my wife. I will protect you, always. But he searches for words that come with difficulty. I will take your trait into account, if that's possible. If that's possible, that clause is all of him, his world, where her moral boundaries are variable, and her physical safety is a constant. What if it happens again? She asks, and the question terrifies her. What if I have another nightmare? He looks at her seriously. Then I'll wake you, ask you what happened, and we'll discuss before we act. This is a huge concession for him, a whole new protocol. Wake, ask, discuss. Instead of an immediate and all-out blow, she feels something weak in her chest. This is not happiness. This is a fragile, shaky hope, a bridge thrown over the abyss between their worlds. Okay, she says. We'll discuss. He stands up and approaches her. He doesn't hug her. He stands next to her. I don't want to hurt you, he says, and it sounds like the most sincere thing he's said all day. Never. She believes him, believes that in his frame of reference, this is the absolute truth. The problem is that their frames of reference are different, but now they know it. And perhaps this knowledge is the only thing they have. That evening, they're back in the living room. He doesn't turn on the old movie. Instead, he plays quiet, unfamiliar instrumental music. He sits with a book, but doesn't turn the pages. She looks out the window at the sunset. She thinks about those 7 chansols. They're probably trying to return to their normal lives now. Some are laughing it off to their families. Some are silent, harboring a new, deep anxiety. Their worlds collided with Minho's for one night, and the collision left scars. Now she's part of it. She bears this burden. Minho, yes? How can you live with that? With the fact that your actions ruin lives? He closes the book and places it on his lap. He looks at its spine for a long time. I don't think about that. Isi, osui, shakes, ni thighs, he says honestly. I think about the goal, about the result, about keeping the right person alive, healthy, safe. The rest is interference, noise. It needs to be cut out. Otherwise you can't survive. You can't make decisions. He looks at her. But for you, it's not noise. I understand that. So I will try. Try. It's not a promise. It's an intention. And for a person whose life is built on actions, not intentions, that's a lot. Night falls. They lie down in the same bed. There are centimeters between them that feel like kilometers. She lies on her back, staring into the darkness. She feels that he is also awake. Nayla, yes? I'm sorry for your sleepless night, for your fear, for making you think about something else. She turns on her side, facing him. Only a silhouette is visible in the darkness. I'm sorry, too, for not understanding right away, for thinking the worst. He doesn't answer. After a moment, his hand finds hers in the darkness. He doesn't squeeze it. He simply places his palm on top of hers. The warmth of his skin penetrates the cold of her own. They fall asleep like this, not in each other's arms, but connected by that light, watchful touch, like 2 sentries who have survived an attack and now stand guard together, knowing that danger can come from both without and within, from the depths of sleep, from a misinterpreted word, from the very nature of love, which is a shield for one, and both a shield and a burden for the other. Outside, a quiet, ordinary night passes. Somewhere in the city, 7 people named Chansol are perhaps also awake, tossing and turning in their beds, or taking sedatives, or hugging their loved ones tightly, rejoicing in their inexplicable, miraculous return. Their paths have diverged, but an invisible thread will forever remain, connecting them all into one story. The story of how one woman's nightmare, for one night, changed the lives of 8 innocent men, and how one man's love, terrible and all-consuming, nearly burned down his own home, but at the last moment wavered and took a step back, into the unknown, into the darkness, into the possibility of another day.